Yash, so this is a question from Mat. I definitely can't say your name. If I can't say Srinagar Nazargagata, I can't say this name. Matavez Kovac, something like that. It's kind of about loneliness a little bit. He says, when you mention that people walk away from you when they can't catch you, so to speak, do you ever face feelings of loneliness because of that? If yes, how do you approach that? When they walk away from me and they can't catch you, so to speak, do you ever face feelings of loneliness? Um, so I'm not exactly sure catch you, but let's say like this: when people don't understand me, okay, that's yeah, I've got that my whole life, like my whole life. I remember they gave me when I was 7 years old. They gave me I had this nervous system disorder, and they gave me Haldol. Do you know what that is? It's one of the most strongest things you can give somebody, let alone when you're 7 years old. And I started feeling like my bones were popping out of my skin. So I went to the doctor, and guess what? He gave me something for that. I remember the feeling. I couldn't articulate it, but there was an intuitive feeling like what are we doing here? You gave me one drug that's bad. Now you're going to give me another drug. And isn't that just going to make things worse? But I couldn't figure out how, if he's a doctor, how he don't know that. How he doesn't know that. Or my parents, how do they not know that? It must be me. Maybe I'm missing something. And then I got to be, I don't know, later. You know what ended up happening? I found my first guide in the 12-step program, and he straightened me out. He said, man, you're different. And I needed to hear that. I knew I was, but nobody would tell me that. Or if they did, it would be in a negative, derogatory way. But this guy didn't do that. And he explained to me. He says, when you're sensitive and you have this higher level of awareness, he says, man, people aren't going to get you, you know. He saved my life. He really did. God sent him to me. It's so clear. So that's what we're talking about. I'm sure that's what you mean too. How do you approach that when the people see people they don't want to look at stuff. I loved looking at stuff my whole life. I stopped doing smoking weed at 15, and so I started. What did I have to do? I didn't go party and do what everybody's doing because why? I wasn't under the influence of stuff. So I just did introspection all the time, trying to figure out life. I became a really good psychologist because it's all I did. I'm a self-taught, self-learned psychologist. And I wanted to check all this stuff. How does the ego play out? You know, what are people's motives? Like, don't you want to look at your motives? I'd call people out on their motives. I'd be like, you said this, but you really what's behind it? The subtext. I used to call it the subtext when I was a teen. I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm listening to the subtext, and the subtext is saying something else. I remember I was with a girl. She might have been my first good girlfriend. My first real soulmate girl was when I was in my early 20s. That was something else. I was like with myself. It was just crazy. I didn't know you could experience that. And then I experienced it 2.5 times more. The half is because I didn't have sex with this other girl, which is a good thing. If you get in a relationship, don't have sex for at least a year. Let everything come up and you see what you're dealing with. Don't have sex and you get all energetically intertwined, and then there's drama and you can end up in prison. So just be chill. But who can do that, you know? So I had this first good girl at 15. She looked really good, but she was a tease. She was such a tease. And she would tease guys to get that hit of validation, which I'm sure I did it much worse than her after that, you know. This whole, they call it subtle lust or edging. That's a big obstacle, and almost everybody does it, you see. You gotta look at that. Those are the kind of things I wanted to look at, you know. So she would be teasing these guys, and I would tell her about it. I'm like, why? I'm like, I can tell when you're talking to him, you're trying to be flirtatious, and you're doing all your little things. She said, what do you mean? I'm just talking. So see, I couldn't prove it. How are you going to prove it? The proof is inside the person that's doing it. They have to realize that. So that was kind of a fun example I wanted to get, but that's the story of a lot of people's lives. People are saying things that they don't really mean. Even if they're saying the truth, a lot of times they're lying about why they're saying the truth. There's selfish motives behind it. I'm going to tell you the truth because there's something in it for me. If I tell the truth, maybe you'll feel a certain way and then I can get what I want or something. So those are the things I used to like to catch out. But nobody wants to look at that. So did I feel lonely? Yeah. Lonely and pissed off. I was resentful. Didn't like people. I'm like, everybody's stupid. When I was in LA acting, I played with the comedy. I was really good at comedy improv. But stand-up, I didn't really like. But I liked dark comedy. I was really good at that. But I tried the stand-up out for a little bit. And I went to this comedy coach, and she was like trying to help me find out what I want to talk about. And the only thing I could come to my mind was stupid people. She's like, what do you feel? What are your strong feelings? I said, stupid people. And I couldn't develop much material around that because I think I was too attached to it. I was too, if you're too pissed off at something, it's hard to have enough space to actually have some material for it. So anyway, look, man, we're living in a time where the cards are kind of stacked against us. I think that glare I think it's all right though. This is big league school that we're in. All right, we're here to demonstrate the power of consciousness, of universal power in the midst of a lot of unconsciousness, like everywhere. God provides loopholes, though. He provides ways. He provides books. He provides YouTube videos. You might get lucky and actually meet a person one day that has some higher state of consciousness and you guys can enjoy. That actually makes it better. That's the blessing of being around so much unconsciousness, is when you meet somebody that's conscious, it's like, whoa, celebration time. People are like, what are you celebrating? He's not stupid. You don't need to go anywhere. You just sit here and just kick it. Because you can play tennis. Like if I hit the ball, you can hit it back. It's like, oh, wow, you can actually hit the ball back. Because there's so many people you hit the ball and they don't even see the ball, What this teaches us to do is go deep. This guy I told you that saved my life, he told me once too. He says, when it gets right down to it, he says, man, nobody cares about you when it gets right down to it. Now, I would have added to then, I know now, I would have added except a being who's higher conscious or awake. They care about you, but they don't care about your personal self or ego. So see, somebody can interpret that wrong. They're like, oh, this, I thought this person was so loving, and then they just keep dismissing me. Well, if they're really loving in a higher consciousness and they're dismissing you, it's because you're bringing too much of this little karmic self, and they just don't want to deal with it. Or they just feel you don't have the capacity to actually understand how to, the willingness isn't there to transcend it. So they let you go, let you suffer, because they know you'll come around. Everybody's going to awaken, so to speak, at some point. So what difference does it make if it's today or tomorrow? So this forces us, being in this 8 billion people in the world, and most are just unconscious relative to what we're talking about. That's what I'm saying. And it's not a arrogant thing to say. It's just, it is what it is. Like, really? Like, is it not common sense? Well, it's not common sense if the majority is unconscious. They're not going to agree with you. They're not going to be like, yeah, man, I'm unconscious. No, They're going to tell you you're arrogant and egotistical, and you're calling them unconscious. They don't like that. So you don't tell them that. But if that's how it is, if most people you can't really relate to, at first there's going to be a sense of separation and loneliness, because something inside, it's human nature, you want to connect. The consciousness wants to connect with itself in another form. You got to bear this so-called loneliness for a while, because during that period of loneliness, you're going to have to get more deep in touch with your true self, your true power. I'm going to make a video, I think, called God and You Are a Majority. This is what happens. You got nowhere, the relationship you have with your higher self, that has to be the main relationship. Otherwise, you're going to feel lonely. So the more that gets established, the more fusion, awakening, that happens with your true self, the individual self with the true self, the more stable you get, and you don't get lonely. You don't need these personal relationships like you did. And then guess what? I've said before, when you stop wanting and needing something, the universe gives it to you. This whole thing is crazy how it's put together. So you keep going, man. The question's a high-level question. You're watching a channel that we really get into it with. So that shows me it's just be patient and cultivate this relationship as yourself. With yourself. Muji said once, be alone as everything. That's what it is. Once you recognize the consciousness in you, you see very clear everything's consciousness. It doesn't matter the form the consciousness is taking or the grade. You see, that's very diversified. But you see it's consciousness. It's consciousness in this tree that's keeping it together. It's consciousness in the animal that's allowing it to act from instinct, because it doesn't have a mind yet that can function. Nature's taking care of it, acts through instinct. And then consciousness is acting through all these human beings according to their evolutionary present capacity. Some are very unconscious and mean, some are in the middle, and some are more conscious. But it's all consciousness. The pure consciousness is consciousness. So when you start to see that, so how can you feel alone? It's the personal self that needs to be held and talked to and all that. See, the consciousness is subtle. It's not going to hold you. It's holding you from inside, but you got to be aware of it inside to feel that it's holding you. So this is the process of spiritual evolution. And just keep being aware of that. You just keep checking in and being aware of this presence that you are in essence. And the more you're aware of that, the more it will hold this human individual self and give comfort. And then you won't feel lonely. You just can't feel lonely because it's with you all the time. It's like having your best friend with you all the time. So you won't feel lonely. And then you can enjoy other people too. It's not like you don't become a hermit unless that's your destiny. You can enjoy people more because you're not attached to them. Then you can enjoy it. The expectations aren't there. I used to, when I was a teenager, I'd go out with somebody and we'd go out, have a great night, and I would get depressed before, like in the middle of the night, because I'd be like, damn, this is going to end. They're going to go home. Then I'm going to be alone. You see? So when you're more established inside with yourself, you enjoy, and then it ends. You're like, okay, it's cool. See you in the flow. We'll hook up again. Whatever. Maybe your face will change, have a different form. It's all going to be consciousness. It's all good. This is everyone's destiny, and you'll experience it no matter what. So you don't have nothing to worry about. Just ride it. Just be patient. Let it happen. Enjoy this. Enjoy the loneliness for a while, and enjoy some solitude. We need to have some more. People need. It's like they need more solitude. You just can't get away from people. They're everywhere. Family and people, and they're just everywhere. Like, take some time. I had a consult with somebody, and he's going to go and spend like 3 or 6 months somewhere in this cabin out in nature. I'm like, right on. It's about time. There's people that live 70, 80 years and never do that. Got to do that. All right. Take care.